discuss the potential redevelopment of the old Port Consolidated. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedules and stopping by. And with that, I'll hand it off to Lara.
Hello. Thank you, Nicole. We've got a cozy, intimate little group here of people that are heavily invested and have been in this community. So this is going to be an interesting little sit-in. I think we've got another guest joining us. So they're going to put up a little presentation. Hi there, come on.
Hi.
Jump on in. Perfect timing.
I'm going to go all the way through for a minute.
Okay.
We'll see you when you get back.
We'll see when you come back.
So people that watch this are like, who is this woman? Hang on just a second, we'll get pulling this up. So, all right, so while they're pulling that up, you all know who I am, so I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm Lauren Dietrich, and going on 27 years, 26, 27 years of working with Palaka. Sam and Allegra, I remember meeting them for the very first time. And we sat in this room.
We were
Yeah, we were all little crazy kids. And so it's been fun. So the thing that's kind of neat is a few folks that literally have been through the evolution of this town that are part of this. So you go click through that, And just to refresh your memories, the grant that was written last year that was awarded to the city of Palaka allowed us to focus on a few things. And basically those items from last year's grant were chosen by the community, the business community, property owners, and stakeholders. And so we came in, we listened to what everyone wanted to talk about what the priorities of the community were, and we looked for all the redundancies. And those redundancies fell on 5 things. Those landed on branding of the city, which I'll get back to in a second. It landed on code enforcement, which I was proud to see that Ms. Cardi, we hadn't even finished the deliverable yet, and she had already gone out and hired full-time and part-time staff. They're in offices, they're active on the streets doing their thing. So we checked that one. And then we got into education, information sharing with Putnam County on building permits and application processes, because we had some folks in the community that had talked about the fact that they felt they were going places and they weren't getting the right direction or any direction at all, or confusing direction. So that has been activated. Shared parking agreements is something I've actually been talking about for a long time. There's a lot of opportunity with private property owners in doing shared parking agreements for festivals and events. So that's kind of an ongoing item. I wouldn't say that's completely all we've ever checked off, because short of buying and owning public parking land is a tricky thing in a small footprint for a dense neighborhood and community. So that means it's not on the tax rolls, and it means it needs to be maintained. So sometimes having shared parking agreements with businesses that go dark after 5 is to your advantage and their advantage, as long as it's secure and it's clean. So that leads us to what we're doing here today. We're here to talk about one of the top 5 priorities in the Port Consolidated site that is to our east, the gateway to the city. And real quick to touch on branding, in the meeting we had earlier this afternoon, I said it's kind of only fitting, and people brought up wayfinding. And so I said it's only fitting that actually a few things that are critical to the city, like branding and wayfinding, sometimes there's an evolution of how you approach a circumstance, right? So the city has to get their house in order. They're getting their house in order. They're focusing on a few things that are critical. Dealing with the environmental, which the city's almost 100% there, and it's fully funded, which is amazing. And then get that signed off by the fire marshal and the building inspector, and we're good to go to activate temporarily, let alone it's going to be demoed or whatever. And then the wayfinding helps you once you know what your story is and where your activity zones are, when that gets designed, because that's a holistic approach. It's about how you find your zone. It's not just sign. It's how you make your way through a city, through historical activated sites that are public monitors. And if you don't know where things are, then those things are brought together in a cohesive way, not just random. So that really can't be done until you've got the pathway initially, right? And then the branding, I think what you were saying earlier, you need to get your house in order and clean before you have a party. So you're not quite to the branding yet, but you are soon. And I know Ms. Cavils is actually, she's leading the way on that one. That's in her house. So the neat thing is that she and I have been working together and our teams on the marketing study, making sure we're using the exact same kind of the 9th minute. I called you first and said, what are you using to collect your data? Because I wanted us to be collecting data with the exact same metric and sample. If we're not all working together in the same direction, we're going to hit heads and conflict. And that's just something we don't want to revisit. We're done with that. So here we are with Port Consolidated. So we took input and feedback And, well, real quick, the deliverables are basically, we have to kick off with you guys, right? We're going to be working, we've already put together an environmental summary and submitted that to the state, so that went out on time. We've been in constant contact with Montrose, which is the environmental consultant, Chad Russo, so that way he knows what we're doing right now. And we're working with him and with you and Jane on the fact that the DEP is fully funded, everything left to do, and making sure, because everything's been designed, and the designs have been submitted, so Chad and I are reaching out to the DEP contact to make sure he's gonna get through on review on that, to cut that loose and get that. So that way, while we're working on what are we gonna do with this site, and getting ready to engage the private sector in the market, we're getting those other things done. So that way they all meet at the same time, right? Okay, so that, and then the main focus of this is gonna constitute in a deliverable that is gonna look at several. It's gonna look at some conceptual massing, so 3D architectural massing of what we're looking at. And right now, what's relevant to our conversation is land that the city actually owns, and it consists of 3 parcels. And I'm sorry they're back there, they could be here for the camera. But these 3 parcels are .13, .37, and .27. It's basically, it's .70 of an acre, so almost 2/3 of an acre. So, for now, this is what's in play. Of course, City Hall, City Annex, and then we've got private sector owned parcels around the school board. So there's kind of the before, after, right? You drive over the bridge, the first thing you see is you see a darkened area that is more hardened, and you see a softer area that's more colorful and well lit. So you can see the transformation. And I think with the evolution of the work that's been going on year after year, it's just giving people more confidence. Real money is being spent on real development. And it's not coming in waves, and that's good, because the town is really not ready for 70-mile-an-hour development, right? You're gearing up, you're getting ready, you've got people in town now all working together to actually know what they're doing, and everybody's working on it. So, that's gonna culminate in May for the presentation to the commission. Good? That's okay. And you can click again, y'all know what the site is. This is just one of the many pages through the market study that picks up some of the statistics and the psychographic data. There's like qualitative data that's kind of fleshy and soft data that comes from being able to pick up things through people track phones and social media and purchases, and it's kind of pretty illuminating to find out what's being tracked in our lives. And then, of course, things that come from traditional standards. And this, again, is through the footprint. But it talks about the fact that you're going from a negative growth to almost becoming flush with your housing units in the past 20 years. And it's been consistent, but it's finally picking up. So it's going to be interesting to see what the 2020 ends up delivering on today. So, and this is, if this isn't posted, I think this should be posted online, but if it's not, Nicole and I will get together and make sure that all the documents are up there. So we have some follow-up questions on CRA, TIP fund balances too, that we'll circle back with those folks. So you click. All right, so again, you got .13, .20, .37 equals .70. Great things. So it's city-owned asset. A lot of people sometimes say that's not a good thing, but in this circumstance it is, because it's leverage on what you're going to do with whom you're going to do it. You want to be as flexible as possible. It's already zoned C2, which is great. It was built, well, the most recent, Lager and I talked about this in another meeting. The building was built, actually, the site originally was built in the 40s. However, the structure in its current form, for all intents and purposes, the last time it had any major adjustment was in 1980. So it is not historically significant nor architecturally significant. To me, that is a positive, because there won't be any kind of pushback on demolition. All right, great access. As busy as it is, it's still got great access, because remember, you have to think, don't be in the confines of these blue lines necessarily. It's amazing how creative developers and good planners and good landscape architects can be in working with the site and utilizing other ways to use their access points. And on this one, you got 4 access points. It's totally wrapped. So, of course, the ultimate view, it's got a full view shed. First thing you see when you come over the bridge. Click. So let's talk about the good old, what's the good, bad, the ugly of the site. So, and there's plenty more I want you guys to chime in on, but, so so some of these pop out immediately. You've got, and these are just fun pictures I put. I'm not saying by any means we're definitely not going to put the top one on the site as it is currently. But it's completely reasonable to have things like these,
Right.
you know? So, and the way urban and historic development, especially in this town, the character of this town is already with things pushed up front. Now, am I saying these are what I'm recommending? No. But I'm saying uses like that can be, the architecture could be different. But this is just fun little things that I just wanted people to just kind of open their mind to what can happen. As small as the site is, you'd be surprised if you allow dense mixed use with a little height, what you can do. So those are some of the strengths. It's city-owned, the remediation is almost complete, design's going through, and DP's funded 100%. And it's not historic. So what's a weakness? Well, it's compact. That's not necessarily a weakness. It's amazing what you can do. And if you want to look around, and frankly, just to have an interesting conversation about Federal Street, and given that this is city annex, I'm not sure how much this is utilized for any staging equipment, if this is underutilized. But frankly, first and foremost, closing Federal, at least to here, okay? You don't necessarily need that anymore. You can have access into maybe underground parking, and I don't mean underground like embedded, but I mean surface that's covered by building a structure over. And overflow and, you know, whatever the deals that could ever come in the future, but for now, at least closing that off, right? And of course, you'll still have the parking here, but I think you do pretty well here for the most part. And I don't know if you have a shared parking agreement, or if you just use this for overflow for commission meetings, or,
Not yet.
okay.
Not yet.
So, because if they're not having a board meeting, they're dark at 5 anyway.
Right.
So, yet again, all these opportunities, right? So definitely when you're thinking about possibilities, don't be stuck within the blue lines. The blue lines are important for legal purposes for now. This is the asset in play. However, what can be, and what a developer may see, is going to be all kinds of other creative things. So I want you to think that way. So, yep.
Just to interrupt for a minute, that part of Federal Street can't be closed because that's the motel.
Right.
They close their
I'm just
access
saying,
Unless
yeah.
somebody owns the motel also.
And who knows? Yeah, I have no idea. But I'm just saying it's interesting to think of all different ways. Of course, the motel needs this to get in, and frankly, we don't have any rights yet. This is a local road, which is good. But yeah, this isn't our problem. And frankly, I think this parking, if I'm not mistaken, is that in public right away? Or is that on their actual
There's
property
parking on
line?
their property, the building's
Yeah,
just back.
small amount.
They have their own property.
Yeah, because most on-street parking, I'm not sure if that's the property, like the right-of-way line is here, but it doesn't matter. Either way, you can impair it. I mean, that's their right to use it, yeah. So, and we respect that, and we're not even going there. That's why I said for legal purposes, everything within the blue lines is in play. But people have been having fun today talking about, you know, if I had a dream, what could I do, right? So, all right, back to weaknesses. So it's not contributing to the general fund, right? So it's on the public records. And then we're in the CRA, so the Central Business District of the Community Redevelopment Boundary. So it's not contributing into that trust fund either. So that's always something to contemplate. I know some people can also look at this to play devil's advocate and say, well, maybe there's a front park. That's true. But that's an asset that makes the property around it more valuable. So things that may not be contributing in tax dollars are contributing in value, right, and or use. So contributions, I'm open to those arguments, to the fact that public parking, public parks, public trails, the river walk, things like that, they don't contribute either. So I would definitely take the devil's advocate deflection on that. But the whole point is, everything in the town and in the CRA and in the CBD should be contributing positively to something, whether it's a recreational use passively or actively, or it's revenue or job creation or housing or what have you.
And if the city were to lease this property, I'm not talking about long-term 20-year leases, there's probably 3 or 4 offices that they can lease it, and businesses are leasing and renting downtown, period, all over the county, all over the city, they are leasing. If they lease that to for-profit businesses, it goes on the tax roll, it becomes taxed, then it's contributing. And that's what nobody realizes. The city, for many years, in the 100 block where Charlie has it, where Vilchoff's is,
Yeah.
they rented all those buildings. One of them was a for-profit building. The property appraiser had to tax the entire block or the entire parcel. Al Bush called me every year and said, why are we being taxed? I said, you know why you're being taxed. I told you last year. Because you're renting for a for-profit. By state law, if the city releases anything to a for-profit, they lose the exemption
Okay. Well, and great point, because in temporary uses, then there you go. Making sure the development agreement is put together properly by people that do this for a living, helping the city legally, economically, they definitely need the support to do the deeds.
I have to go back to Ms. Kitchen. So what Ms. Kitchen is saying, that if we took that Port Consolidated and at least for 2 to 4 years leased it out to for-profit entities, there's a cost in there that would then cost that
You
property.
need to ask, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna tell you to seek your legal representation. on
Okay,
that.
all right, thanks.
And I'm not saying she's incorrect, I'm just
Okay.
saying, everything,
Caution.
always have, and have, you know, a development, contractual development agreement, legal guidance from a person that does that.
And if your attorney doesn't give you the right answer, talk to your former attorney, John Thomas, you will get the right answer.
All right, so let's get back
There
on
you go.
point, let's get back on point, yes, sir?
So I want to ask this question because I'm going to go back a little bit further. If we're doing this, we are then assuming that we're going to keep this as City Hall because we had talked about this not being City Hall.
I don't think there's any assumptions on the table, I think this is for everyone to think big.
Okay, so because technically we could move the whole complex and trade it for higher profit use.
Sure, anything's
higher-
possible.
And higher tax
Yeah.
use.
Yep.
We're gonna look at
That's
that,
right.
right? As long as this building was historically safe, I don't wanna fight that battle. Okay, so that's actually on the block
Well,
then, isn't it?
well, okay, so when we talk about this specific grant, because there's
Right.
two things really in play here in my mind. There's the grant that we wrote for the city that is piggybacking on last year's grant, because we had 5 things we wanted to really knock down, and we're doing well on that, and when I say we, collectively the city. Now, we want to really focus on this, because this is pivotal, it's the gateway to the city, so that this grant was written specifically for that. So there is a grant-driven, there's actual action items we are doing that support and help give a toolbox to the city to do the deal they need to do. Now, it doesn't give them the lawyer, and it doesn't give them, they've got environmental people, just like they've got us planning engineers, right? So we're supporting them in that case. But when it comes to legal and brokering the deal, they're going to seek those experts as well to help them do that. This is helping the system to get ready for that. Then there's equally something else that's happening, that's allowing you guys, what do you want to do?
Brainstorm.
And you know what? The grant's about this, but let's face it, let's not waste time, we're here to talk about it. So why not dream big, right?
Well,
I mean,
because if we add
you know,
this
why not
building
think about
and
it?
this
Sure.
annex, we've got an acre and a half.
It's all about the appetite of the city commission. It's about the appetite of the community and how they work with and communicate with their commissioners. And Ms. Marcia Carty is, you know, the steward that is serving at the pleasure of the commission, that's gonna work with the staff to do the best they can and get whatever consulting help to make sure that they're making good decisions. And then working with the county, with the chamber, with the Economic Development Commission, because you're all in this together. There is no us and them. You all are we. There is no bifurcating you guys. That conceptual idea is long past due from the 80s and the 90s. So to stay on point with that, I don't want anybody, I want everyone to feel comfortable saying whatever they feel and standing by why they feel and telling us why you feel that way. But I don't want anyone to feel limited. And why? You know, go for it.
So what would the city have to pay for? What exactly does the grant do?
This grant right now is it's a $75,000 community planning, technical advisory. I want to issue that. So CPTA, it's a $75,000 grant. That's the maximum you can ask for in those grants. The governor and the legislature were in extra sessions, as you recall, this year, and went long, or last year, I'm sorry. So they went extra innings, and until the budget is hammered out and they conclude the legislature sessions, then amongst many thousands of other things they do once they close session, is all the grants that we'd already submitted are waiting. Then they gather up those hundreds of grants, they look at them, and based on what it's written about, there is no sweet spot on answering it correctly. It's, you make a good argument, and hopefully you get chosen. Well, we've been doing that, we've gotten 1,000, we've done it year after year now. So this is building on that, and I think that's what's important, to recognize that if you're actually using their money to do things that make actual change and you're building upon it, you have to show, I show consistency, and you have to. If you don't show consistently, you're actually building towards momentum of something. You can't just be, today, we're gonna make peanut butter cookies. Next week, boys and girls, we're going to teach you how to mow the lawn. It's gotta have, there's gotta be continuity, right? So I think that's why we've done well on that, we've gotta keep going that way, and that's the momentum of the city too. So, so that grant is reimbursable, you ask who's paying for what. So what happens is, the grant on May 31st, all things have to be completely already delivered. So before then, we're gonna do our presentation to the commission and the Syria board. Before then, the city will have the final documents and the living documents. We want to give you everything so you can amend it, revise it, we'll let you do whatever you need to do. We're always here to help you on that. And then we do the presentation because then all of the financials have to be resolved so they can submit so the state can clear the city by that day. So, yeah, it's all reimbursable. Did you have another question about the grant? Okay. So the good news is, you've got a great asset, it's in an interesting place, the most important place. You've already made progress that shows everybody it can be done, and there's more progress going on right down the street on St. John's. So I think people will believe now, right?
Yes.
Because you can hear about it, but
They
until you
can
see
see
it, until you can touch it,
Right.
people don't buy into it. So those are the opportunities. The market is moving in this town. People are moving here even more because
We're
they
building
want it
houses.
charming. And St. Augustine is blown up, right? So people who can't afford to live there don't want to live there. There's people that can't afford to live there, but they've already told me they chose to live here instead.
Exactly.
So, so that's really, the community is definitely evolving. I don't know if the birth rates are up. We'll have to look at the census when it comes out and see how the age and the balance of newer families, younger families, and like school board and school capacities.
I think they approved that 2013, the original study came that Flat was a dying county, it's only referencing the fact that more people had died the previous year than were born.
Right.
That's all it meant, but every politician from the county down to the garbage collector jumped on that and preached that like it was the word of God. Didn't mean a darn thing, the fellow got told him that it said it didn't. But I think the birth rate's increased now, so I don't.
Yeah, I think the cycle, because there's that dip, right?
Yeah, yep, yeah.
And then it picks up, and especially because of cost of living.
Yeah,
You got a healthy, charming, great community here that's more
Yeah.
affordable, therefore it's going to draw the young professional in the family anyway. It's a matter of economics. So, all right, so marketing's improving, activity in the city is starting to be palpable. I think another opportunity is the fact that you can make this a clean slate spot. I mean, if the city's on board with being flexible, the most important thing a city can do to facilitate a public-private partnership is provide infrastructure, access, reasonable regulations on development that allows them to do what they need to do to make the bottom line work. Because at the end of the day, if the numbers don't work, they'll walk. And make sure it's entitled. Well, the site is. The site is basically demo ready. It is access ready. The city can help in a lot of ways with their code, the land development regulations. I think some flexibility, maybe looking at height restrictions, being open to
And been going a little bit up.
yeah, well, no, for sure. But here's the thing, and some people in another meeting were like, oh, we just can't be seeing like a 10-story building. I said, well, no one's gonna build a 10-story building there because they can't make the numbers work on a 10-story building.
Right.
So the fun thing about the market is, unless you get a new kid on the block that really doesn't know what he's doing with daddy's money, developers are only gonna spend what's reasonable in the marketplace anyway, or it fits their character because they can't get the return. So again, anyone who's seasoned enough is gonna know what they can and can't do. And the city's best thing they can do is facilitate every way they can, but covering you guys and doing what you need to do too. So I want everyone to be open-minded when you think of that, because the deal's gonna have to be made, and there's gonna be concessions, right? So, all right, so what are the things that concern people the most, right? And this is usually where a lot of the discussion hit off in the earlier meeting, but it was very refreshing. Everybody is very open-minded, very supportive, very engaged, and I think in a bigger, broader way than I've ever seen. Sam, we talked about that earlier. I mean, it's finally kind of coming around. The fear is design guidelines, someone brought that up. And I said, I'll play devil's advocate. If you put design guidelines in, sometimes it deters people because it may constrict too much what they can and can't do. Charleston, South Carolina, has some of the historic preservation guidelines in the country. And it's beautiful and good for them. But I remember years ago staying at the Market Pavilion down on the corner, and the hotel, or the restaurant next to them burned. And it sat there for 3 years. And I said, why? And he said, because preservation guidelines and design guidelines are so restrictive that no one can afford to do what they need to do there under the guidelines they currently have, and the city wouldn't budge. So it sat there, a black, burned out, 3-story building on the corner of ground zero. So sometimes you can choke out the very thing you need because you get too restricted. And we also talked about the fact that, in fact, you bring up City Hall, if that were ever on the table, the annex is not historical. I mean, later I mentioned it was building 50
From the
years
age
before.
standpoint, it is, but
Right.
otherwise.
Well, historical, that's a loose term. People use that word in all kinds of ways. I'm talking about architecturally significant. So that is not, this is, but the misnomer a lot of people have is that if you put something on the Federal Register, it's so you can't demolish. So I'm not encouraging someone to come in and demolish it. I'm just saying that if they think, it's kind of like, I don't want to go with that synonym for that analogy there. Things that people think protect them don't necessarily. So if this needs to be preserved and people want to preserve it, then the community will speak, the commission will work on that, and that'll come together at whatever time. But I just don't want people thinking, well, once it gets registered, then it can't touch it. That's not true.
I was very surprised to learn what you just said, not about City Hall, but I thought that something on the National Register made it more difficult to tear it down, but no, it's about no barrier.
Yeah, and that's
That, man,
every,
$15 will get you a piece of ice cream.
yeah, and you know, the only benefit really of registering something is to honor it, and to shine a light on it, and say like, this is historical on a moniker, and then when people come, you can talk about it, and it gives it, if anyone wants to write about it, just, it shines a light, yeah.
Public relations.
And then, like I mentioned earlier, the main reason is, and it doesn't make it eligible for grants because you put it on the list, but it helps to actually, because it's on the list, you're going to get unsolicited attention also for those opportunities, because it's now being checked, or it's now in the line,
The
so.
citizens have spoken out time and again for the past 50-odd years or more, at least since I was off the commission. They don't want City Hall moved, they want it here, they don't want a developer to get it, they want it to stay City Hall, and they speak, and they speak, and they speak, and they speak. And like poor old Justin Campbell says about the commission, why has this come back? We've already voted on it, here it comes again. Every year it comes back, they think people are stupid, we forgot what happened last. No, we don't want to move, I'm speaking to the citizens of Blackton, people who are born and raised here. We want City Hall to stay here, we don't want it to be developed, we want it to be City Hall in downtown Blackton. We are the county seat of Putnam County, and City Hall needs to remain in historic downtown Blackton, period.
All right, well, I'm glad that you speak for every single citizen.
I will
in the
speak
city of
every single
Blackstone.
citizen, I represent about 1,000 voters plus.
I know, I'm giving you a hard time.
And I can rally more than that.
I know,
But
I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that have a lot of things, and I'll tell you what's interesting is sometimes historic buildings are preserved and used in mixed-use, new and historic developments and repurposed
Right.
as restaurants or as, lofts or businesses or what have you.
Put the ones that get first Presbyterian and make it a
Yeah.
restaurant.
There's interesting opportunities, but I hear you. So moving on from that, of course, we don't want it sitting here forever, and that's why we've got to keep moving. And we can't talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. That's why
Do
the
something.
remediation's almost done.
Right.
Building inspector and fire marshal are going to be going in there, do some final sign-offs. At minimum, Eddie and recreation can get in there and do some temporary use on that until you actually get a group. There's been a lot of good feedback on what people want the temporary uses to be, which are
Okay.
doable, but
Can you-
remember.
Can you share some of those?
Yeah, some of those were activate the inside building for crafts, pop-up, like when you go to RAM, which is Riverside Arts Market at where I live. So you take a space and you divide it up into lots that are like, and I don't know the exact square footage, but the spots are usually like 20 by 10, and you could set up your little kiosk, your little booths, right? It's kind of go to a conference booths. So everybody rents a little booth, and you do it by the month, or 3 month, or 6 month, or whatever you have.
Mhm.
So people can have their pop-up shops, pop-up restaurants,
Okay.
As long as it's all code compliant and the structure has been signed off, for certain uses. Now, if you're gonna do cooking, that's a whole other deal, firewalls and ovens, and that's a whole other situation. So it's gonna be more like crafts, arts market, farmer's market. And the only caveat I mentioned to some of the folks that got on board, that's a wonderful idea. But it's interesting because at the end of the day, though, so who's gonna do it? Are you the nonprofit that's gonna do all the work and do it? Oh, no, not me, but that would be a cool idea. So be careful what you ask for, because you just might have to be the one to do it, otherwise, someone's gotta do the heavy lifting. So, and trust me, those markets, the one at Ram, that took 28 years, and it's under an overpass. And now, it's so wildly successful that the underpasses that continue to go through Riverside are now skate parks, they're all well lit, murals are everywhere, and this dead empty space that was unsafe, or at least by perception, and of course, homeless activity, or drug activity, or no activity, and people thought it was dangerous, and there was really nobody there.
Right.
But now it's well lit, it's all designed by artists that probably came up from here to do murals, and they've got skate parks, and market goes on weekends, and so, activating a dead space, if you can do that, this is not a dead space, this is the front door of your house. So, the potential new use, I think people need to be as flexible as possible. Again, you can't dictate private sector market. Now, it doesn't also mean that you can't say, well, we're just not going to anyone coming here, but absolutely regulations coming. A good way to create a filter to prevent the things they don't want, I'll give you an example. Downtown Jacksonville, their downtown CRAs don't allow two things, and only two. They allow everything in the universe except for two.
Food shops.
One and two. They don't allow industrial,
Okay.
manufacturing, or processing,
Okay.
or built entertainment. That's it. Everything else is allowed.
So tell me
So
how,
you have to think about what you do and don't want, and that's how you address it through your code.
Okay.
Other than that, be flexible.
in the flexibility, if you combined all of these lots, plus maybe one or two that could be purchased, you could do a city hall, can you do a public, private, and nonprofit thing so that you would have a city hall, but an entry into town? We've been trying to get the exhibit from NASA, the spacesuits. We have nowhere in Palaca that will exhibit what is required for these spacesuits. But wow, wouldn't you want to see these spacesuits in the traveling, exhibition?
And these are where right now?
Traveling United States, everywhere but
Okay.
Palaca. Because we.
And you need, and they have certain requirements of where that temporary
The Smithsonian
installation can be.
has 100 traveling exhibits at any one time. But we have nowhere here. So can you have a public, private, and a nonprofit
Well, you get anything
all
possible.
working together?
Well,
Is
first of
that
all,
possible?
anything's possible.
Okay.
Second of all, with cooperation and money and the right people to help facilitate putting that together, anything's possible. It's just whether or not the deal works. Because let's say, for example, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm the developer. I'm coming in, I want this site, but I don't want just this site. I'm going to pick up a bunch of other things around here, and I'm going to make those deals myself. I don't want you guys helping me make that deal. That's what I do for a living. You guys don't. Please don't help. But what I do need is this, that, and the other X, Y, and Z, right? So, let's say then that private owner, the city wants to do a deal with a private developer and say, we need 5,000 square feet for this, and we need another 3,000 square feet for that. Will it accommodate it? Well, if the developer is already programmed in his mind and can make the numbers work with the uses he wants, he's gonna say no. And then you guys decide, are you gonna make the deal or not, right? So it's all about the deal, and we don't have a deal yet. We're not quite there. But the thing is the city is going to be there soon, and see, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is ramp you guys up to get your mindset right, so when the deal comes, you're ready to make the sacrifices you need to make and not fight and try to block.
So in Washington, Metropolitan Methodist Church, Mount Vernon, closest church to the White House,
Welcome to our code.
they sold the rights to the first 8 floors. So their church is on floor 9.
Correct.
And then above the church this is all offices for the
Sure.
developer. This is the
And those are
church.
through lease agreements. I was at a National Brownfields Conference, which is an environmental conference. This is a brownfield, which is a real and/or perceived contaminated site. And/or perceived is the best part of definition. And we went to the conference, and then we had dinner on the 5th floor, and then I went bowling on the 9th floor. It was really cool. Because you remember, that's an urban, dense city that's allowing for a grander scale. So what you said could be at a smaller scale.
Right.
Anything's possible.
Right.
But it's up to the developers. If you're gonna do a deal, let's play another angle on this. Let's say the developer comes to town, I come to town and say, look, I want to do this, that, and the thing, and you guys are willing to make a deal, let's make a deal, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, we changed our mind, we're gonna need to have like a third of the site for this, otherwise it's no deal. 9 out of 10 times, it's got to be more. So you gotta know where your threshold for payment, I call it in doing deals, and this meeting's so different than the earlier meeting, because we're getting even further into it, because a lot of you guys are really experienced in this. And I wanna start hearing more interaction, especially with our new member of the team, who's good.
Interesting, you mentioned Denver, my new neighbor, when she was here, and your neighbor also, Mackenzie, she was here probably about 6 months ago, I guess. And she comes from Denver, she despised it. She has a lot of businesses there, she owns houses, she left it because she hated what they're doing. So she came to Blackman because we're a small rural town, we have wooded lots, small country town, Blackman, a small
Well,
town.
that's why a lot of people are moving to
Both
smaller
my
towns.
neighbors, one from Canada bought here, she bought here, fell in the South Historic, they're all buying here for what we like and love. And then we got people coming in here and said, oh, we love Black, it's so charming. Well, let me tell you how we did it in New York City, and we're gonna change it. That's what we hate in Black. They come in with that little smooth line that we love you and your charm, and then they tell us rules
Well,
how to do it.
and you know what, that's common everywhere. So
It
as the
is.
director for Baker for several years, when COVID hit, people were already moving from rural areas into smaller towns, but COVID accelerated that.
Oh, yeah.
And especially California and New York. Those are two places that were getting out quick. And a lot of people, thousands of people moved from California into this Northeast Florida regional area, and a lot of them came to Baker County.
And a
So,
lot of New Yorkers went to Miami, and a lot of Californians went to Texas.
yeah, and a lot of people went to the Poconos, right over the border. So, but the thing is they want that quality of life that's still being close to access to big service, right?
And you said at the earlier meeting, if you want all that entertainment and fancy stuff, 30 minutes to South Austin, 45 minutes to Gainesville, 50 minutes to Jacksonville, 50 to Daytona, you get
It's a
there,
perfect
have all your
logistical
partying and your nightlife, and come back home with peace and quiet.
That's right.
That's it.
So circling back into here, I think it's gonna be important, and all these things will be captured. No sticky notes, and all these things are gonna be captured, and anyone who has questions that they want us to follow up on, and we don't have answers for you, or that's not our role and our place to make sure that we get informed as project manager on this, and staff to get those answers back to you. But I think it's really important for the city and the community to understand, boil it down to what you absolutely can't live with. Because everything else should be on the table. You want to be as flexible as possible. In Nora, you deal with economic development all the time, and what would you say is an impediment to doing it?
Well, what we were talking about where you get to the finish line and then you recant, that's gonna ruin the deal for that developer and all the subsequent developers, because they're gonna see that, and they're gonna go, I'm not wasting all that money on due diligence to have the deal fall through, and now I've got $300,000 in overhead that I'm never gonna get back, and, and so the developers watch that, so that's another reason why we got some of the road before you go public and any of that, so that you don't scare off anybody. Because that one impacts throughout the entire city, not just this particular property.
And there's track record, like you said, people pay attention. So you don't want to burn too many bridges, because then people may just not come to play it off.
Who's gonna make the decision about this project? The
Well, and
commission-
there isn't a
Commission
user yet.
or
The
the
commission.
public vote?
The commission. Yeah, so, but the people, you all, are the voice of the community that needs to stand up and let them know how you feel, because while they do have responsibilities to make decisions at the end of the day, and sometimes tough ones, right? They're representing you guys. So I say the more educated the public is, the more realistic. I mean, because people may look at this and I've seen lots of folks say, oh, we want this and we want that. I said, well, this is .70 linear. This is a tight spot. This is gonna have to be vertical. The good news is that the whole impervious with the, of course, there's a couple patches of some uncovered dirt areas. But for the most part, last year, December 28th, the Water Management District passed new regulations that they never had before in the last 30, 40 years. So there's some advantages and disadvantages to that. The advantage is the site is already built and is totally hardened. Now, that's a disadvantage for aesthetic, but remember, there's everybody that wants beautiful and neat and all that, and we're on board with you. Everybody agrees on it. That's 100% consensus. Soften it, beautify it, green it up. Oh my God, it's so unattractive and so hard. So everybody's on board. We haven't heard one person disagree with it. But you gotta be careful how you do things because there are regulations and permitting that the engineers and the planners and those guys have to deal with, that we all deal with, that you have to step and plan accordingly and know what you're getting into so you can do what you want. So it's an advantage that this is a hard surface, hard site. If this is what we call a greenfield like this, it's not because it's green. They call it a greenfield because it's not developed. It's like, this is not developed. That's not ours, but I'm just using it as an example. So if this were undeveloped and just dirt and weeds and whatever and grass, we'd only be able to use 2/3 of the site. Because we'd have to do surface ponds or vaulting, which is another means of treating runoff and stormwater that occurs. But because it's hardened, that's a great advantage. Now, there's some other great advantages for the developer in that to do the stormwater, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole on stuff that I'm not an engineer either. Anybody engineering? So, but just high level, think about this, the fact that we deal with what is called a basin. So this is in an area that's larger, that looks at, if you can't treat here, you have to treat your runoff. In other words, if I took a glass of water and I set it here and I spilled it, it would literally run off. Well, just like rain on a parking lot runs off, it's gotta go somewhere. Where's it gonna go? It goes in the street. That's not going to flood the street, right? So it's gotta be captured and treated somewhere. And there are credits for things like that. So there's all kinds of creative, resourceful ways that we as technicians deal with how to develop this site, even though it's really small. And then, of course, it could get bigger depending on what the future developer does with it.
Has the commission been involved with the the 4 points that we have up here? Have they had a workshop about bringing them up to speed to?
No, we already had 2 here today and 1 on monitor. And
But
I mean,
specifically the commission?
their presentation will come later, but this is, and to be fair, this is open to everyone. It was advertised from social media to LinkedIn to the chamber to the e-blast to the website to the newspaper, everywhere. So because it was advertised means that elected officials can commune, because remember, Florida statute, sunshine law says 2 or more can meet at the same time, then you gotta publicize it. Well, it's publicized, so they could all come. But I think there's also an understanding and appreciation that they wanted to come and listen. So, and Mayor Correa was here as well. So they wanted to listen more. They weren't contributing, they wanted to hear what you guys said. So I thought that was great. They're going to be reviewing the information. They know exactly what we're doing. They had to approve us to even do what we're doing. So they're aware of the grant, they're aware of what we're doing. They're going to be seeing the presentation of what our findings are. Staff will have drafts and things like that. We can circulate if they're curious. But we're moving fast. I mean, it's February 15th. This thing's going to be working. This is a different kind of project this time. It's not like the action plan last year. This is very centered on this site. And it's going to be guiding on legal opportunities and legal options on how to redevelop the deals. It's not going to be every single deal in the world, but it's going to be like here, it's like an a la carte menu. Here are really successful ways of doing deals, and they're all different. And it's going to depend on the project, because the merits of each project are very unique. So here are going to be different legal ways that are coming. I'm not a lawyer. I've done the deals with lawyers, but I handle more the economic. So we have people on our team that are giving the legal guidance to be able to offer that. So that's in the document. There's going to be 3-dimensional modeling just in massing, so people get an idea of what we're talking about. It's a simple version of me just putting those there. It's not because I'm trying to say those are going to be the decisions. I'm trying to get people out of their head from looking at what's there now and realizing that as much as some people think, oh no, we don't want anything to go there, and then all of a sudden, it's amazing when you see something transform on a site you didn't think would look that good or they could fit there. It's architects and builders can do amazing things. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And And the reason why I like this is not necessarily for the marketplace, even though there's a lot of great urban markets now, but they're building smaller and smaller. Hi, Sam. So what's fun is you look at different urban market footprints, because there are big boxes gone away, the wayside, because they just can't be sustained with people living where they're living now. So lots of national brands, let alone small business owners, a lot of us, I think the consensus earlier was, you definitely want someone that's from the region to do this, right? That's got a local kind of stake in it, and the folks that we're dealing with on the marketing and brokerage side, they're the biggest retail commercial company in the southeastern United States. So I called those guys and said, hey, I need your help. So they're helping us on that, and looking at what's totally doable here, and maybe some of those options of what you're gonna need, and what they would offer. So this is gonna come with a conceptual massing component to it, a legal deal-making component, and a market of what can and what would be necessary to go here, and then, of course, the community input. And that document is concise, is supporting of the work we did last year with that market study, and goes before the commission. I think May 21st is what we're hoping for. Do we need, because it's in this area, we need to go to the area board first, and then we'll go, and that meeting's 2 weeks before that, is that correct?
No, now it's on the same day.
Same day.
Be at 5 o'clock on the same day.
I thought every other Thursday, the second and the
It's
fourth.
changed.
Okay. Okay, well, the 21st, I think, is what we're hoping for, so that's when we're bringing it home. So that's what we're focusing on, so yes, go ahead.
So, I'm sorry, I couldn't.
And what's your name?
Another meeting. Yvette Jones.
Hi, Yvette.
Hey, so are these renderings of like options of what it would look like? Or
Yeah,
that's
no.
just somewhere else?
Yeah, that's why I was just saying, I just picked these pictures because I just wanted people to understand what compact development looks like. This is just me throwing out there something, these aren't the idea yet. And we're not actually, the grant's not about design. So we're not hired to design the place or build the place. We're here to identify the constraints on the site, the opportunities on the site, and how the city has several options on making a deal. Because what's gonna happen after that is the site design will go into the final DEP push.
Right.
Fire marshal, building inspector, green light that place, and 2 things will happen simultaneously. Temporary use will
That's the main
ensue.
thing.
Yeah, temporary use will ensue, whether it's pickleball for the youth rec center, and that can be done in there very cheaply with tape and paint thing. So that can go on while brokers are working with the city to put it on the marketplace with the right people to start the negotiations. Because I deal with private development all the time. A lot of my cities and counties that I work with, public sector, but I'm also on the private sector. And I can tell you, I strategically called certain people because they're the ones that are building things in the Baker counties, Clay counties, Putnam counties. Because Jacksonville, for the most part, sure, there's big deals going there, but there's a saturated market there. There's a lot of really good, actually safer deals to be made in the regional fringe, because that's where people are wanting to go, and there's more opportunity, and there's openings that are more reasonable. Let's face it, the land is less expensive. So this I just did for the fun of it. I just did that because I wanted everyone to get out of their head for a second and not see that site the way it looks right now. Because it's amazing to see what can happen to a site. Like, I mean, that hotel wasn't there, and people that would look at the grass lawn that was there, remember? And they'd be like, you couldn't possibly put a hotel there, wouldn't you be crazy? That's what they'd say. Well, now there's a hotel there, and I was like, wow, I didn't think that fit. It's like when you move into an apartment or a house, you're like, there's no way all that stuff's gonna fit in there. All of a sudden you put it in there, now all of a sudden your house looks bigger than it did empty. It's an optical illusion, right?
And the hotel was just like a high rise, the shape and size, almost the color.
Yeah. So, I mean, and of course, like, something like the top one, that is like, of course, bigger than could go on the site.
I actually like the third one, I think that's really.
I think this is really
That is
cute.
so cute, I like it.
But I think what would be fun is, I mean, everyone is activating the rooftops, right? Everything is like, you've got a river here, you've got beautiful weather, 9, 10 months out of the year. So whatever happens, whether it's 2 stories, 3 stories, 4 stories, I hope that the developer and the city will get on board and activating the roof. So that's kind of what I was going for there. So, discussion.
And are there ideas, like what is how are we gonna capture the community input? You said part of it is about community input.
Yeah.
And just like this was advertised, it's hard to get community participation in order to get their input. So, I mean, what recommendations or what ideas do you have as far as getting the input
that's always a challenge with working with communities, right? So aside from all the different ways we try to communicate things, like today, we normally don't have day meetings, we normally have night meetings. Well, the day meeting was 3 times as busy. The room was full for the day meeting. So that was very refreshing, and that was a great idea, Ms. Cardy, because it was right on the money. You said, I bet you more people will come, and they did. And it was a new group, there were new people.
And you
But a
know,
lot of us work, right, so we can't make it, you know? And that's why we always have meetings at night, because that's just, the majority of people have to be somewhere else. So, aside from that, this grant doesn't allow for that effort. We've got a very short amount of time and resources to do what we're doing that was written specifically. But in general, there's a lot of creative ways, and they involve having like an event. So, for example, the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan, no, why don't you share a cool event when we did the comp plan up there for them, and it got a ton of people out.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, ways of doing community engagement, kind of piggybacking on other things. I know this community had a lot of cool events that happened. So, an example we did was every year they do the opening of the beaches in Nassau County, right? It's a big festival, musicians and artists and different groups come out, and we said, all right, we have this big event going on. Let's get our table out there with activities for the community to do so they can share their ideas. What do you want to see here? What do you want to see there? It was kind of like a game, and kids got involved, So I went through afterwards and sorted through it. There's some ideas, and like little kid ideas, but it was something that got a lot of people. We had hundreds of community members share their ideas on what they wanted to see, So piggybacking on things and community engagement
Like
is always great.
Azalea
Azalea
Festival,
Festival.
Blue Crab Festival, having folks out there and activating it, and then all of a sudden you got your literally in person there with more people, and keeping it simple. Not having an exercise of 15-question survey, something that's very simple to the point, like there was one about the drawing, right?
Yeah.
So people were drawing, and another one where it was a garden party, but it was actually to talk about development. But people wanted to go to a garden party. So all of a sudden, a ton of people came to the garden party so they could have a nice time, yet share their ideas. So you're right, you have to be creative to get people to come out, because there's a lot of kind of atrophy that goes on, right? I mean, people have been talking about change forever, and they don't see it happening, and they're tired of it, so why bother going? I've heard that at least 100 times over the years in every community, not just here. But people are seeing things happen now. But people are busy, or they're tired, or they've got kids, or they just can't make it, or they're at their 3rd shift, or frankly, they don't know, and they don't want to know, they don't think about knowing, and so all of a sudden something happens, and let's say a truck shows up and starts to demo that building. You'll have about 1,000 people, all of a sudden they want to know what's going on. So, I mean, sometimes people, it's not their priority. So everyone prioritizes differently. Like, you made the decision, you worked all day, you have other things you need to do, but you came in here anyway because you were curious. So, and it's okay. Everybody's got like how they want to do what they want to do, but we're glad for those who do come, because guess what you guys do when you leave? You talk to other people. So you can share your story, and then that person shares their story. She's going to share the story because that's officially what she does. And the best thing, and Sam, I know you and I have had decades of this discussion, but the first meeting I ever had in Black, I remember I looked around there and said, how many people have been, how many people heard Joe told about West Virginia? Raise your hand. Everybody raised their hand. Said, how many people here have heard a joke about West Virginia? Raise your hand. And they raised their hand. I said, how many people here have been to West Virginia? And like 2 people raised their hand. And I said, well, that's what you're all doing to your own camera. You're your best guardian. You're the ambassador of where you live. So positive, hopeful, spreading the message, because Florida, as big as it is, Northeast Florida is small. It's all about word of mouth. I mean, that's how everybody finds things out. They listen to people. So if you're a positive ambassador for your town, that spreads.
The thing that people seem to forget about, especially on city government, the best word of mouth, so to speak, is the radio. Somebody needs to get on the radio. We've got 3 radio stations, WHIF, PLK, and IYD. Somebody needs to go down there and get on the radio. It's free, and announce to people. And I found out, when I happened to stumble across the classified ad about the meeting, I asked several people, we haven't heard this. I wasn't in the classified ads. I told Marcia Lane, I think she got it on the radio, and that's why people came here, because word of mouth and the radio. I heard, you told me it was in the Daily News.
Well, yeah,
I
but
talked
that's
to
part of
several-
the branding that we've been
You told
talking
me it
about.
was in the Daily News, and unless Sarah confirms it, I didn't see it in the Daily News. I saw no ad about it, and nothing in the classified, yeah. How many people read the classifieds in this room?
But we have to by law, by code and ordinance, put it in that area for legal.
I'm not
research.
complaining about that, I'm saying that it's hidden back there by law, it has to be there. Nobody reads the classifieds except me, and I
Then
learned
we
20
need,
years
then
ago.
we
you
would
never
have to
read it.
have budget for a different place in the paper, I think.
But all you got to do is also a public service announcement, the paper will print it for free. The newspaper, the radio is free, I'm saying there's ways to do it.
Okay.
It's not you,
We'll
it's
take
not
notes.
you, Laura, it's not you,
No,
it's
no,
the
no,
city
no,
of
well,
Blackville.
I consider us
Okay.
okay.
I'll take care of it.
The city keeps their
I'm
meetings
never,
secret.
as long as they'll have me,
It's
this
not you.
is a we.
It's the city, this is not the only meeting, the city, oh, go to social media. They expect the citizens who don't have email or smartphones,
Right, that's why
every
you use
5 minutes, to
multiple
check the city
points.
website to see if the
I
city's
know.
pulled a special
Okay.
meeting that
All
day.
right, all right, we'll look into that, we'll look into
It's
that.
not you, it's them.
No, I know, okay, well, we're not here to be negative,
I
let's be
especially
positive.
I am
I
positive.
really want
I
to
know,
push
it's constructive.
this aspect of it, because I've been involved anyway, way too long and the whole bit, but what I hear in Palaca over and over, there's nothing for the kids to do. There's plenty, but you, mommy, daddy, must make it available. And, you know, we've got everything, there are still scouts, there's sports galore, there's bands, but, you know, to get your child to play an instrument means I, as a parent, have to be involved to get them to do it. But what I really want to see happen more and more is, I love newbies. My customers are not Palatka people. Downtown doesn't depend upon Palatka people. I know a lot of you haven't even been in my store. We don't. We depend on outsiders, and they're exciting. I love them. I had bluegrass people from the boys' ranch this weekend. Oh, exciting. Today, or last week, it must be freezing in Indiana, because they're here.
Okay?
They're here, and they're visiting my store.
Okay.
I want us to start listening to outsiders and get some of this,
Why they're coming here.
why are they coming here?
What they're looking
They
for.
appreciate more about Palatka than Palatka people.
Right.
And we're not grasping that. We are the worst enemy that we have. And
Or best ambassador, and it's a.
It goes back
And
to
that's why I
that.
brought it up. I
And
said, you
so-
literally can
Right.
shine and make the town shine and spread the word and be a part of that.
And my
Perfect.
corner down here is an example. We're working together.
You sold the print shop, right?
Oh, we closed it.
Okay.
We got
Where,
it.
okay, so where are you now?
I'm in same place,
Okay.
antique store,
Okay.
3 years. We're a year ahead of schedule, not because of Palatka people. I'm ahead because of the villages. I'm ahead because of Keystone Heights, believe it, and I'm ahead because of Indiana.
What's going on in Indiana? That's the third time I've heard Indiana reference.
There's hundreds of them here.
Wow, that's cool.
But we've got to listen to these people and hear why they like us, and then we need to start telling each other, wow, they like us because, you know,
We're small,
we're
we're
small.
160.
But, and we're testing each other in my section, and that is, if I don't send them to somebody else, I ask who sent you,
Yeah.
and it had better be Urban Farmhouse.
Okay.
Or Magnolia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're holding each other accountable
That's
and
cool.
we're listening. But this whole concept, I'm more excited about, because I had an idea of what I wanted, but now I'm more excited. This area right here, we could transform into a gateway that our CRA could, oh wow.
That's who we are.
When we- yes,
That's
Oh,
who we
wow.
are.
when
I
we
love
throw
that.
all
I
the
love that.
property
Oh, wow.
together,
Right.
That was great.
we can have everything, we can have everything. And that's exciting to see right there.
And it's up, and it can be at scale that's appropriate, remember? No one's gonna come here and
Right.
put something out of scale that's inappropriate because the dollars don't make sense. So change is hard for some folks, I get it, but I think over the last several decades, especially today and now, this is, I think, the first time ever for 2 years straight now, instead of pushback dominating, it's support of ideas and yes, please, and it used to be, you had to fight your way through it, and now it's like, wait, keep writing them down, there's so
Right,
many, oh my
right.
gosh.
And
So-
hurry, and hurry.
Yeah, yeah, well, but that's the point, that's what we're doing, I mean, this isn't about to talk about it, we're trying to get them ready giving them some tools, and then we're gonna get it with the right people, and they have to choose, those are ultimately their decision, the commission. But know and accept what your strengths and weaknesses are. And it's okay that you don't know the answers, and it's okay that you don't know how to do it. That's why there's other people that do, and please seek that guidance, so that way you navigate through this that is beneficial to the citizens, the city, you cover your bottom line and your responsibilities, and you also are flexible enough to get a good deal. So it's okay, you don't know, you know what? You're not developers, you shouldn't know how to do it. So there's no shame in not having the answers. No one has all the answers. So please don't let anyone think they've got all the answers. Seek help, there's a lot of good support. If you don't know who they are, get lots of good advice from people you trust, and then have those conversations, decide who's gonna help you. But I'm telling you, you won't have to call someone to come get this site. If you get it positioned right, they'll come to you. Because there are people that have portfolios of people, and people have portfolios of property. And you know who those, us that are in this racket, know who those people are. And I don't mean a few, I mean the people. And those people are trying to meet, it's like dating stuff, right? Trying to get married. So let's marry the people with the property that fit best. And it may take a couple times. So don't, I got excited when I first started this gig a long time ago, and I was like, oh, we're making it, oh my God, so fun. And then they had their hands out, like we were talking about earlier. People come and they're a little losing, and they think the city's gonna just gift it all to them, like, no. But see, those aren't experienced folks. Whoever's gonna come here that really knows what they're doing is going to have their private capital, they're gonna have their equity, they're gonna want some things from you, and that's where you negotiate what's reasonable, and they know you have actually more in kind to help than you have cash, right? So you have land, right? So you don't have money, you got land. There's RED grants, there's TIF, there's other grants that exceed the state and federal levels. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and developers understand that. They don't think they're gonna come in here and hook them in. And you should have support that does not. With that, yeah, go
So
for it.
at the other meeting, were there people who expressed like things they wanted to see there?
Why don't we have one of them tell you himself? Why don't you repeat about the market? Go for it.
Several ideas that we discussed, because there's two really great spaces, if we think about it. There's the outdoor space, and then there's the inside space. You don't necessarily have to be used for the same exact thing, highest and best use. So whatever happens in that outdoor space can definitely complement what happens inside the indoor space, but for the outdoor space, we were throwing around a ton of ideas, including,
Local
like,
crafters and
yes,
markets.
and also just like softening it up with things like green, like shrubbery, fabrics, and plants, and having things like holiday markets and night markets, and other types of like crafts markets, especially things on the weekends and festivals out there. And then, like inside, I think people were saying things like food and beverage, innovation hubs, a makers hub, yoga spaces. There's definitely tons of potential. The thing about this town is that we know how to use space and transform it with very little. We can bring value to it because of the people. I think it's just like what I said, it's finding a way to marry the people who own actual space with the people who know the people on the network.
And then again, there's realistically, there's some constraints as the building sits currently, and that would mean, and I don't have the full breadth of that with the building inspector or the fire marshal, but I know when we get into food and beverage preparation, the health department, those kinds of permits, that's a whole other situation. So I don't want to send out the wrong message that tomorrow a public restaurant is going, right? So the city would have to be realistic. So if the short-term use for the next 12, 18 months were to be a market, then it's gonna have to be something, of course, that can function in a building as long as it's code safety, code ready, right? When you get into cooking and food preparation, that's a whole other situation with health department permits and firewalls and a whole, sprinkler systems, and then that's an investment. And does the city want to make an investment in something that's gonna get demolished hopefully in the next year?
Or
Or a year and a half.
2 years.
Yeah, or 2 years. 'Cause I mean, time goes fast and deals sometimes take a while, and it may not be the first deal, it may not be the one. So, but meanwhile, why not make, as, you know, as the labor was saying, make some revenue, activate the space, you've got people that wanna do something in the short term, so that, you know, and softening it up, so.
So I have a question, like, even for the short-term usage, should we put out, and I don't know what proper term, RFP, ITB, or just?
I'm not gonna tell you the answer to that right now,
Oh,
because that's part of
yeah,
what
that's
we're,
part of
that's
what
part of
you're
what we're
going to
doing.
render to us.
Because there are many ways to do things,
Mhm.
and we're going to be giving you
Okay.
many choices, but we're also gonna give you our
Pros and
our
cons.
recommendation on what we're saying, given your circumstances, but we wanna give you the menu, so you can order
Right.
the meal you want,
Okay.
okay?
That's
We'll just
good.
tell you what we think about the menu, like the meal I'm gonna order, doesn't mean you have to order it,
Mhm.
but I wanna give you a menu, so the commissioners and you can, and the team can look at it and say, well,
Okay,
these
I
are things.
understand. Thank you.
So one of the first things that happens to that site is that, you have to cross full lane of very active busy traffic in order to get into the active part of the downtown. But I was told that the underpass footbridge, which is a little sketch right now, is being revitalized, that there's some FDOT funding to completely transform, light, put cameras and all that on that project.
Is the funding secure for that, Marcia?
Not for me, not yet.
But it's something that we did in Jacksonville, I brought that up, and some other folks brought that up, that lighting, and there are ways to make spaces that are perceived and/or real and/or perceived unsafe, or at least unwelcoming. There can be, I mean, I walk downtown in Jacksonville, and know I'm good with that. Growing up as a city planner there, I had to go back to my car late. Not, I mean, you know, there's a lot of perception versus reality out there, and perception sometimes is more powerful, right?
About 2
So-
years ago, the city did vote to redo that, and they started getting plans to,
Yeah.
repairing the.
But I don't think they secured the funding for
And
it.
they're working on repairing, they already voted and approved that about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But
But it happened,
going to Laura's question,
Yeah.
that path is, if I'm going from one side to the other, I'm not going a 2-block roundabout.
With blind speeds.
I'm going to walk,
Snakes.
I'm gonna go to that light and just walk across, because that's too long for me, you know what I mean, to go underneath there. And I think that's part of the planning that needs to happen downtown, is it's not safe to cross Reed Street at any light, because our people run the red lights, they run everything just like everywhere else. And we really need to look at that safety and what else do we need to do along those 11 blocks, but that's something.
well, and that's part of the wayfinding,
Right.
indoor streetscaping, and
But
DOT,
you are so correct.
DOT is,
Correct.
well, and,
This thing that goes-
okay, one, and just for the fun, real quick, I'll entertain that, because I don't wanna get us segue or sidebar on that, derailed on that, but none of us are architects and engineers, but we know enough to be dangerous in the fact that this road is a DOT road, so first of all, you'd have to get permission.
From our DOT.
And the state.
Yeah. Second of all, let's say money's no object, okay? Because we're talking millions and millions of dollars for this, okay? A pedestrian bridge is, it's very expensive. So here's what's interesting though. So money's no object, and let's say DOT is all on board. So we just checked what seemed like the two hardest things. Now let's talk about physics. So where you would have to start a walkover in order to get to a height, to be able to then go down, means that bridge,
I remember that.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember.
So remember, you can't walk 90 degrees up and then not, so you'd have to basically have an elevator that goes up, get off, walk across, elevator that goes down, and stairs that would wrap around, right?
Right.
So I can see in my mind, if you want to do one, it's gonna be like untopped goalposts, so like a picture frame, you could make it like literally a picture frame, and black is a beautiful art, right? Wouldn't that be cool? I can make something up. Right, so you've got a frame coming in.
Top of the bridge, because
Yeah.
it would
But
improve bridge traffic. and
DOT
make it-
would have to approve it, you'd have to get the funding for it, it would have to be designed in such a way that is ADA compliant, so that means the elevator's gonna be mandatory anyway.
Right, and they had that.
Yeah.
Height for the trucks.
Yeah, so remember, it sounds like an easy, neat thing, but to get the permission money and the engineering and what that footprint where they're gonna anchor, if you did try to do something walkable, is going to be quite extensive. So, I'm not saying it can't be done, because people are doing amazing things in Kuala Lumpur and Dubai and all over the place, which costs a lot of money, right? So, just think about the reality of that. Now, I think the short-term answer is, this is not a new issue, so I'm not sure what is going on with the sheriff. And what's going on with DOT? Why haven't there been meetings about how to either unsynchronize lights, which I know when I say that everyone cringes from the timber trucking industry, but why isn't this been addressed in a way with DOT on
Well,
other
all-
context
and all the
sensitive
way
streets?
down, at least several spots where you can cross. Because I live downtown,
Yeah.
5 blocks from, and from work, and crossing Reed Street, I know where I can do it safely
Yeah.
at this age.
Yeah, well, I'll take a sidebar, I'm not gonna do it now, a sidebar with Ms. Cardy or with Nicole, but because I work with DOT and the district manager who runs the district, and we've done creative things, and people have always told me, I can't, and then I do. So, well, don't tell Laura, like, those who say it can't be done are usually passive or doing it. So, anything can be done if you have a reasonable argument that's justified with good information, and you allow DOT to continue to do what they do, which is collect vehicular tax money to build roadways, to build roads to vehicles. So, but I get it. In a perfect world, it would be really cool to have a flyover. And, it'd be even more cool is, I mean, gosh, everyone's building beltways these days, but you got a river here, see? Rivers as beautiful as they are, it's challenging, isn't it? So people build beltways, but then what happens with beltways? Beltways can actually take that lifeblood that you're looking for to spend money, and sometimes circulate all that blood somewhere else. So I don't think it's that you have traffic, I just think it's this historical lack of managing it in a different way. And we all have been talking about it for decades, but we've never really done anything about it, or we just haven't gotten the right traction. But there's different people in charge, and there's different people here, and I don't know, I think we have a new conversation that could be interesting.
When I was on the commission, we talked to DOT because the red lights on Reed Street hold for 17 seconds. And I pointed out, when you're crossing Reed Street, on foot, you step off the curb, and the minute it turns red for you, run as fast as you can run, and when you get to the other, before you get to the other side, it turns. And they said, well, we want the traffic to move through Palatka as fast as it possibly can. In fact, they want to take out all the red lights on Reed Street and just have traffic go straight through, no medians, no turn signals, no nothing.
Is this something DOT told you?
Yes, they told us that. And
They actually
they said that. Tim Smith witnessed to it, and James Norwood, and some of the other, Mary Lawson Brown, they told us that. We want
Well,
traffic
those
to
are
move.
commissioners, those aren't DOT
But that's
staff.
what DOT told us in the commission meeting with the public at Price Martin. We were told that we want the traffic to move through as fast as possible. They wanted to put 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. The city commission talked them out of it. Prior to me getting on the city commission, DOT wanted to enlarge Reed Street and take part of the courthouse, city hall, St. James Church, and part of other property. Tim Smith, then Mayor of Palatka, and the commission wrote a letter pleading with DOT not to destroy Palatka that way, and they didn't enlarge it to 6 lanes. But when I was
You
on,
can't.
but they were gonna take the property of eminent domain, get City Hall, the 100 block, the courthouse, St. James Church.
How long ago was that?
When Tim Smith was mayor, probably in 96, 97, and then when I was on the commission from 06 to 2015, we had a conversation with them, trying to get the red lights hold longer so you can actually cross the
Yeah,
street.
let's put a pin in this one.
If they would let you
wrap
cross,
this meeting.
if the red
The
lights
pin
hold
we're gonna
longer.
put in there is I'm actually gonna have a sidebar with you, so I could just have an permission to have a conversation with my friends at DOT, just to have an interesting little, like, what do you guys, what are we doing here, guys?
And
Just to
also,
see.
give me a chance to give you some update on what we are doing with that.
So we're gonna table this, trust me, this is not shelf. This is just for tonight's purposes to bring this home.
And there was a lady killed crossing the street, and that's during
Yeah.
every time.
Well, and I'm actually working with Groveland right now on pedestrian and bicycle level service. Noah and I are working on.
What you said?
You can't actually measure it like you measure trips, like a vehicle trip, because it's more subjective and qualitative. So DOT has just put out what they call their quality level of service for pedestrian and bikes, So what's interesting, is 96 was loud later.
Yeah,
And you know what? When people that are in charge of that right of way put out regulations that are now measuring quantity and quality and safety perception and stressors, the key word in what I've been reading so far in my research to help Groveland is the stress experience of that activity. So all of a sudden now, there are context classification guides and there are quality level service pedestrian and bicycle guides from, not to, but from DOT. So then you take their rules back and let's have a
I hope
conversation
that
about
works,
your rules.
because we were connected between I-75 and I-95, and they wanted to connect it with as fast as possible, so I-75.
It's called revisiting, it's time.
But, yeah.
And it's not, I think that's almost like some cool kismet, I got goosebumps. We're doing this for Groveland, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. Here's how you get a conversation.
Well, you wanna get
Because
people across
now, they've got standards, and they do this. Oops, it's yours. Maybe we should talk about it. All right, cool. All right, anybody? Any last thoughts? Hey, you're gonna have to say something, you haven't said a thing yet.
I was with my friend, he's from
Hi.
Pennsylvania, he's just visiting.
Wonderful, welcome from Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania?
Harrisburg.
All right,
Oh, that's.
cool.
Thought he was gonna say Indiana.
I know. Apparently, the Indiana folks, the Hoosier Nations, then they're
They're all
hanging out in
My
Pulaski.
mother's family's from Indiana, came here in 1915.
There you go. Well, then they've been here a while.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you,
Anybody?
Lauren.
Last, good?
Thank
Good?
you.
Thank you.
All right.
You didn't sign in when you came
Okay.
in, will you please make sure to sign with that sign-in sheet?
All right, making progress.
Yeah, and we will be following up with summary meetings, presentations, other events coming, so please leave a phone number. If you don't want to leave an email, we will call you